Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's Brian Doyle again, and I'm here with our latest installment of MSP Business School. With me, as always, I've got Rob Rogers and Tim McNeil, my partners in crime here, as we head into another week of the great discussion. Our guest today is Will Ominsky from Nerdio. We're really excited to have him be a part of things today. The backstory here is apparently you three have met each other at one of the recent ASCII events at the usual place, the bar. Yeah. And I just feel bad that nobody invited me.
Dude, come on out. The next one's in Chicago.
Yeah, next week, Chicago.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, you guys are on planes, trains, and automobiles now. I can't wait to get that started again. But anyway, we're really excited to have Will. I'm sorry, Rob, go ahead.
No, I was just saying we saw Will at the ASCII show, and he was doing a really good presentation. It was really insightful, and you could just see everybody in the audience really impressed with what he was talking about. So I was like, we have to get him on. And then luckily enough, when I was at the bar, as you can imagine, he came and ponied up next to me, and we started chatting. And we were like, all right, let's do this. So I'm excited to have you on the show, Will.
Yeah, it was really good timing too, because I think it was 9 o'clock in the little town we are in. It was last call. So perfect timing when I showed up.
Yeah. It was truly a one-horse town.
That was a weird town.
That was weird.
Yeah. And as a guy coming from Beantown like you are, you're saying to yourself, what? This is just where we get started.
Yeah. Exactly. I was just finishing up work. I actually presented, and then we had like a little networking event for ASCII, and then I ran back to my room because, I support MSPs all over the world, so it was calls with, partners in Singapore and Australia, and then I'm like, all right, I'm going to run down to the bar and get a drink before bed.
And it was one drink.
Put on those track shows, guys, because it was obviously running down. Yeah. So, Will, we love to start things off and kind of find out about everybody's journey, right? We all ended up in this industry 100 different ways, but once we're here, we seem to not leave. So, love to hear a little bit about your backstory and how you came to be as a fellow Northeasterner to the three of us.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's kind of an interesting story, at least I think. I got started in sales when I was in college, and I worked for a magic store. Like, they sold magic tricks and jokes, and it was in downtown Boston. And I got to demonstrate the magic tricks and then try and sell them. And I made a little commission right off selling these tricks to all the tourists. And I thought that was really cool. I got instantly rewarded basically for my efforts instead of just, an hourly rate. And that kind of propelled me into, my first job in selling copiers. I sold copiers and printers for Konica Minolta directly, but I had passion around the technology, not necessarily much else with that, but I stayed there for 3 years, and our branch actually was the worst in the country when I started. And over time, we got some new hires, and we actually went to number one. We became the number one branch. So it was cool to see that transformation, but I wanted to get out of that and focus on technology. I was fortunate enough to find a company called Thrive Networks. They are a New England-based managed service provider, and I came on board there as an outside sales rep. We got acquired by Staples, the office supply company, believe it or not, and I stayed on. After the acquisition, I was there about 5 years, and it just opened my eyes up so much, and I was really fortunate because Thrive was early adopting to managed services, in the early 2000s, flat rate, unlimited everything. Yeah. They were doing some cloud computing, RDS, Citrix, Horizon, that type of stuff. And then, after leaving there, I flipped sides. And I started working in the channel because I really embraced cloud computing. So I worked for a couple different companies that kind of help IT service providers transform their business and their customers into the cloud, whether it's private cloud or public cloud. And that's kind of how I ended up with Nerdio. I met some of the guys there at an industry event, and everything just clicked. Like, it just felt right. It made sense. And I was like, where do I sign up?
That's awesome. So how long have you been with Nerdio now?
I'm coming up on 2 years in October. And believe it or not, my very first day was at IT Nation. So I was scheduled to start, and about 3 or 4 days before my start date, our chief revenue officer called me up and said, buy a ticket. You're going to man the booth with us and meet the team at IT Nation. So I was there on my first day, already evangelizing about Nerdio and content. I'd done it so long, it just made sense.
Talk about throwing you right into the lions,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You know?
Just,
Oh yeah,
Right,
I
and-
always wonder if I was afraid to talk to people at that booth, would I still be here? You know,
It doesn't strike me as you're afraid to talk to people, which is awesome, right? No, that's the beauty of sales. You know, when I hear you were doing copier sales, I got to ask a couple of quick questions there because, man, that is an interesting job because, you know, for anybody that thinks you got a cold call, nobody has to cold call like a copier sales guy. And usually you guys were doing it on foot, right? You know, really going in there and just kind of trying to take them down.
Yep. 100%. It was you. I know I got 3 zip codes in Boston and a phone book and Goldmine CRM. And hey, good luck. There's no good notes in here, right? Just go pound the pavement. That's what I did. You know, I'd hit 50 doors a day, 150 phone calls a day for 3 years.
The only nice part is you didn't have to push around that copier. That's what my old vice president used to tell me in my first sales job. He's like, my whole territory was one twin tower. You guys complain about where you're going to get your sales revenue numbers from. I had one tower. Shut up.
Wow. Yeah.
And he used to just push around the copier in the halls. He claimed.
Oh God, that's brutal.
But
Man,
that's awesome. I've got a lot of respect
for
for guys that started out there, man, because that is some hardcore selling, and you know, you're amongst friends with that one. Well,
if you can make it past a year as a copier salesperson, you can do any sale. Yeah, you're a superstar. You can make it anywhere. Right.
Yeah. When we're interviewing people, if somebody's been in the copier industry for more than a year, they automatically, they can, you know, short of being a job hopper all over the place, they pretty much go to the top of the pile as far as like interviews, not necessarily being hired, but that's a good thing to say. It's a good thing to say for sure.
And I mean, I got to say, I was really fortunate with the coaches. You know, the people that I ended up working under, they just taught me so many valuable skills. I think I kind of had that drive, right, to go out there. I don't care. I'll knock down doors. I'll talk to anybody, and you know, whatever product I might be selling. But I think the coaches really helped me take an eye or take a step back and differentiate, you know, our product or what we were doing. You know, when I was selling copiers, I'd go in and spend time and audit everything that they had. And I built templates. You know, this is what you're spending with your little HP printers, and this is what we can do from a cost analysis. But I think, you know, customers appreciated that because you weren't necessarily the same, you know, person that there, you know, 5 other reps that are knocking on your door in the exact same day.
Yep.
You're talking about a consultative approach right out of the gate, right? It's here's how I can help you. Here's how we can be a better partner to you, and not coming at them at that. This is how we can save you money, right? Kind of the way, you know, we talk a lot about, you know, security sales today, right? Everybody will say that all the customers want to talk about security, but nobody wants to, you know, actually play with it. That's because we're selling on fear, uncertainty, and doubt. What could happen? What we should be really doing is flipping the switch and saying, hey, man, what's your risk tolerance? Oh, you say it's a 5. You don't want to have anything ever, you know, no risk whatsoever. Well, then why aren't you buying that firewall? We got to downgrade you to a 4, right? You know, flip the switch on the conversation and really help people see the gap. So that's a trait. If they taught you that early, I'm sure it stuck with you all throughout your career, right? You know, desktops are desktops. And let's maybe segue a little bit into that and tell us a little bit about, you know, what you're doing today and what Nerdio does and how you guys are setting yourself apart in a marketplace that just it's a little tough for the end consumer to put their arms around.
Oh, absolutely. But it's also, you know, I think Azure specifically is really difficult for MSPs in general. Microsoft has an amazing product, and I describe it as Legos, right? It is this big bucket of Legos, and you can build just about anything that you want to. The problem is the documentation or the instructions that you get with the Legos aren't super clear. They're extremely complex. You need to go to school and class and training. And for an MSP, it takes you out of your business, right? If I'm an MSP, I can't afford to take my guys out of supporting customers to go into these, you know, newer products. And that's really where Nerdio comes in. We can give MSPs the path forward, those specific set of instructions or the recipe to be able to deliver predictable, consistent results for their customers, but also for their business. You know, how as an MSP can I support this and I be profitable while doing that? Because I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there. Microsoft is focusing to the enterprise. Their documentation in many cases is focused around the enterprise. So Nerdio can kind of digest that and show the MSP that path from their point of view or through their lens.
Yeah, and I think you've hit upon it. You know, opportunity is there. I know, when Office 365 first came into play, the biggest fear for all of us, in the MSP community is how do we keep making money, right? I'm the first guy to say it. I think I made, 60% of our revenues probably came out of upgrading and replacing and managing Exchange servers, right? From 2000 to 2010, 12, right? So now you've got, Azure here. And I think it's, one of those things that's tough for the MSP to see how that market plays in and how they can make money with this tool. And to your point, when Microsoft's talking about it at the enterprise level, it can seem like a complex beast that you can't even toe into, or something totally unaffordable for the market downstream. And I think that's where a lot of the confusion comes in. So how do you guys help us with that?
Yeah, so I think in a number of ways. First, it's just kind of the examples and the things that we see every day, because we work with so many MSPs. Through really common scenario when somebody starts working with us is like a CPA or a small office. The only reason they have a server is QuickBooks. They don't want to run QuickBooks in the cloud, kind of need that traditional client server. So very common scenario. So how do I take that scenario and translate it into Azure at an affordable rate that I can do with my existing support staff and their existing knowledge? And that's what we do, right? We walk them through the process. Let's architect it. Here is exactly what the infrastructure and architecture will look like. And we have automation tools and costing calculators and all of these things that just make it really simple. So I can say to you, within about a 30-minute call, here's what it's going to look like, and here's how much it's going to cost. And usually when they look at that, they're like, whoa, Right Networks, which is maybe like the other known like QuickBooks hoster for a lot of MSPs, they do it for $55 a user or whatever it is. But I can actually pull that in-house for the exact same price. And I can, now support that. I don't have that revenue going out of my MSP. Well, okay, what does this look like next? Well, we can give you the tools to automatically deploy that. You don't have to have that engineer, knowing the Azure portal. And then how can I support that? After I provision it, my tier one techs who don't know anything about Azure, they need a simple, easy way to be able to manage that when somebody calls up and says there's an update to QuickBooks or I need my password reset or whatever it is. And so Nerdio kind of helps with the entire life cycle of that customer management in Azure.
So, Will, real quick. So you explained that part really well, but I'm a sales guy, and I don't understand all that kind of stuff, and I don't want to mess it up. How do I go to you with one small deal? And do you guys walk me through as a sales guy that has to go in there and sell the deal? What do you do for me to help that out?
Yeah, great question. So Nerdio can help you whether you're sales or technical. From a sales perspective, you would essentially bring us into the opportunity as much as you want to. Right? We understand there are MSPs that want to protect their customers. They're afraid of the channel eclipse, channel companies kind of coming in and maybe stealing them. So whatever info you want to give us is fine, but we're going to empower you with the knowledge that you need to that's specific to that opportunity. Talk tracks. We're going to give you white labeled marketing materials, end user presentations. So we're going to educate you. So that way you can in turn go educate your customer. Or I have some MSPs that say, I don't even want to do that. Well, can you take off your Nerdio background on Zoom and take off your Nerdio shirt? And can you just be my cloud expert? And I'll hop on a phone call. I won't mention Nerdio or anything like that, but we can really act as an extension of your team. And I think that's really powerful from another standpoint too, because up to this point, in that process, you paid Nerdio nothing. The only time you pay for any Nerdio services is when you consume a license, which would be provisioning a customer. We try and be extremely channel friendly, and we only get paid when our partners get paid.
That's awesome.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. I mean, look, there's, I think there are definitely more and more vendors heading in that direction, but I think the vendors that separate themselves, or the people that work within the channel, they do exactly what you're doing. They help the MSPs. They sit on sales calls. They'll work with the salespeople and help them understand why it's important. Not that the salesperson's never going to know the ins and outs necessarily, but what does it mean for them, and what does it mean for the client, and what are the benefits, right? I mean, that's huge. That's huge.
Exactly. And I like to say too, as much as I wish it wasn't the case, Azure and Azure Virtual Desktops, they're probably not the right solution for every single customer inside of an MSP's portfolio. And I think with us taking that standpoint, we can, again, go after that consultative approach. We're going to work with you. We're going to help you explain it to your customer. And then as the MSP, you can be that expert, right? You can say, here's your option for Azure. Here's your option for on-prem or private data center, whatever they are. But it empowers the MSP to be that expert and not be adversarial. That's what I've always hate about a lot of sales processes. It makes you adversarial. You're trying to cram this solution down their throat instead of taking a step back and saying, well, let me help you kind of figure out what meets your needs. Like you said with the security side, what do you need? What is important to you, and how can we address it?
Yeah, I mean, I think what we're seeing as a community, right? The more we can be out there really helping our clients solve the problems they're looking for, the more apt they are to engage with us. And that's where the relationship grows. And they tend to be longer relationships at that stage too. And the reality is the more is, a vendor community with the four of us all being part of that side of the fence here, the more we can support our MSPs in reaching the objectives and goals that they're trying to do by just being a good partner and helping guide them to it. Yeah. It's amazing what comes back to you, right? I mean, it goes back to the whole concept of you always get back what you give. Right. And if you give first, the results are 10x. But, it sounds like with what you guys are doing specifically, there is such a gap in the knowledge still. Each MSP has their own level of maturity overall in terms of the skill sets available. A lot of times it's a couple good senior engineers, then it's a sharp, steep drop down to the techs down at the next level. And, to have that partner that can help support them when times are tough too, and help them, get those things delivered. It's an invaluable experience, especially as guys are trying to scale and really make their way into the community.
No, agreed. And you'll even notice that if you go to our website, getnerdio.com, we have publicly available content. You don't need to register. And that's one approach that we kind of took early on in the company, which was we're going to be educators. We're not, and even our marketing standpoint was we're not going to do pay-per-click. I'm not going to sit there and do the 100 dials I used to do when I was selling copiers, right? But what we're going to do is put out extremely valuable content for MSPs, and they're going to read it and educate themselves. And if Nerdio makes sense, then that's great. But if we don't, that's okay too, right? We want to give back. And Nerdio actually started as an MSP, so I think that's kind of ingrained in our culture. We sold that off to private equity, and we fully do this. But I think it's a really good mindset, right? Be ethical, do the right things, and contribute to the overall community, and it will come back to you.
Awesome.
That's powerful.
Very good.
So, with that being said, what's the latest, greatest going on at Nerdio? So, I know you were telling us a little bit, Inspire's going on right now, and that means some new things. So tell me, a little bit of what you see as the future of the world of Azure, desktop, all the things that we go out and sell, and what really makes you excited as we head into, the second half of 2021 and leave our houses.
Which is so nice to get out. It is. Yeah. I'm very excited about some of the announcements that happened specifically today at Inspire with the new Windows 365. It is a way that Microsoft is adding hosted desktops into the 365 ecosystem. And I kind of relate this to something you said earlier. When I was at my MSP too, we made a ton of money on Exchange projects. Right. And then I remember even presenting to end customers, well, it's going to be $10 a user a month, whatever it was, to host Exchange. And they were like, why would I do that? I just pay, $30,000 every 3 to 5 years. And I ran some numbers, and it's cheaper to do it this way. But I think over time, we've realized it's not less expensive to do that. Right. It makes sense to do it. We've been, I think this type of solution that Microsoft is offering is going to start forcing people to look at the exact same transformation, but on the desktop side. I've been selling hosted desktops in some shape or form for, the past 7-8 years, something like that. And it was always, is this the year of the hosted desktop? Is this the year of Denmark? And it never was. And I think the reason for it is, the technology wasn't there, but B, MSPs tend to stick with solutions they know, right? And they're directing their customers. But this is going to open up the doors, I think, for a lot of end customers asking about it more, and MSPs saying, well, this isn't as scary as I thought, and it's much more affordable. So where can I use this effectively? So I'm super excited about that. Nerdio has been working with Microsoft for the past year in this new product to make sure that we have actually automation that supports it. So we're going to continue not only helping MSPs manage what Microsoft has, but our other big advantages. We're a small enough company, and our developers, our development side is big enough that we can actually extend the native capabilities of what Microsoft has available. You'll see, we release something, and a year later, it's available in Microsoft. So we can really allow you to leverage those types of technologies very easily.
Easy and early is what I'm hearing there, and certainly, the things that resonate with me is when you talk about the adoption curve from the MSP community. You're absolutely right. There's a lot of laggards in our community, and I think a lot of that is just creating a financial model that will sustain them before they make the shift technologically. My guess is most of them understand it's where to go, but how do we make it work for our business? And when you think back at it, it really took Office 365 about 5-6 years to really kick into where, it made sense. And I know I was one of the guys going, man, we don't get to sell Exchange projects anymore. And then once you implement it, it's kind of done, meaning no more upgrades. Well, that's scary, right? But, you also look at how they've extended other services to it and what the new opportunities become. Think about just Teams, right? How hard would that have been in the old guard of hardware to get a company to buy Teams, implement it, and release it? I mean, honestly, think about it. Teams is really just taking Link to the next level. And nobody was buying Link back in the day because you got to buy 3 servers to run Link. Yeah, I'm out.
Well, and Microsoft showed up in a really big way. So that's, I think, very encouraging and should be for managed service providers as well. I mean, only a couple of years ago, people were, Slack and some of these other tools, and they were like, this is kind of it, right? They're doing it way better than Microsoft. And even in just the past 18 months, Teams has moved along a lot. We used to use Zoom internally, and now we don't use, Zoom. We use Teams for everything because the capabilities has come so far. And the investments that they're making in Azure are greater than any other investment. I'm pretty confident on that from what they said today, and any other stack that they have at Microsoft. So they're making the investments. They're going to try and help enable the partner ecosystem, and it's only going to get better from here.
Yeah. It really is amazing, the transformation since the beginning of last year. We're similar here. We used to have Zoom, started moving to Teams. Wasn't great in the beginning, but some of the updates that they've done over the last 15 or 16 months has been, it's kind of incredible to think of where they were and where they are now in such a short period of time. It defies logic in some ways, but hey, man, it was the way of the world. And of
course, we say that though, right, Tim? And here we are in a Zoom session right now.
Right?
It's my biggest fear. Well, this is my fault because I had some problems with some Teams recording not converting, so we lost an episode.
That's right.
We stayed with Zoom just because of that, but I'm sure that's been far improved over the last year. But
it has, but I think what you just said. I think that's a great point in wrapping around the rest of the conversation we've had. Right, where MSPs and humans in general, you kind of stick to what you know, right, until there's some compelling reason to go somewhere else. And so Microsoft making these investments, coming out with easier things to do, it's going to make that more familiar to you. As Teams gets more familiar, it's easier to kind of ditch Zoom. But I'll tell you, I didn't want to ditch Zoom at the beginning. I'm like, this is unfamiliar. It's different. In my presentation at ASCII, I talk about that. I got the coffee shop down the street. I go to that every single morning. New coffee shop opens up. Looks kind of cool. I might drop in one morning. But the next day, where do I end up? Back at the familiar place. Yeah. And it's just because that's what we do as people, right? It's hard to change that.
It's the part we love, right?
Very much is. Yeah.
So, Will, I'm a sales guy. I got an opportunity, and I've never talked to you before. How do I reach out and kind of start that relationship?
Yeah, so you can either email us. There's contact forms on our website, and my email is very easy, WOMINSKY@getnerdio.com. I am the only Will Ominsky on LinkedIn, so I'm pretty easy to find. I'm happy to pass out my cell phone number, our work, and I tell people all the time too, if you prefer to text, like, let's text. You want to talk on Teams, let's talk on Teams. You only have time to talk on, at 10 p.m. or on Saturday, like, give me a call. We are, if you can't tell, super excited about what we do. And I think the opportunity in front of us and MSPs. So we're going to bend over backwards. We're going to work with you and whatever makes the most sense. But I would definitely say maybe start at the website. Sometimes, one of our downfalls, I think, at Nerdio occasionally is we put out so much content. As an MSP, I go there for the first time. Well, where do I start? I don't even know where to start. So to us, we'll guide you. We'll talk to you about your specific opportunity and what you're trying to solve, so you don't have to get overwhelmed with anything.
Okay.
By the way, my connection request is now in your box. So, Tim, shall we jump into the speed round?
Yeah. So we've got these 5 questions, very quick. Just kind of the first thing that comes into your head, right?
You almost touched upon the first question in your last statement, so we'll see where this one goes.
Yeah, this one's kind of fun. So the first one is talk, text, or Teams.
Oh.
Okay. All right. Music, movies, or TV?
Movies, 100%. Big movie buff.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right. Yeah, we don't get
Which
that.
genre, man? What do you like? Action, comedy? Doesn't matter?
It really doesn't matter. So I really got into Plex when COVID started. So I have my own Plex server. My wife gets mad because there's always a new 8 terabyte drive showing up at the house that I'm filling up. So I'm catching up on old movies and things that I haven't seen or seen in a while. And then also lots of new stuff that comes out. I'll watch just about anything, though. I'm easily entertained.
Beautiful.
Cool. What age do you want to retire?
What age do I want to retire? So I'm just going to qualify this real quick. I look at retirement as not having to work. I would always imagine myself working in some capacity. My goal, though, is 55.
Yep. Okay. Mac or Windows?
Windows, 100%.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense. If you could do anything outside of tech, what would it be?
If I could do, that's an interesting question. So I've always said when I retire at 55 and don't have to work, I would open a landscaping company. I think it's just cool to be outside, keeping myself in shape, and as long as there's no snow wherever that is. So I will not be in New England with my landscaping company.
Wow, you're the second or third person to say landscaping business. Can you believe that?
The contractor that has come up in some way, shape, or form, right?
Yeah, that's crazy.
I think it comes down to the fact that as a species, we spend too much time indoors here in the MSP community, right? It's just nature of the beast being in front of a screen.
It's nice to see, in the MSP world, you don't always see the fruits of your labor, but when you're doing stuff around the house or things like that, it's nice to walk away and say, yeah, I did that. I did that.
Yeah.
Or after the 30 days of rain we're getting, you see the weeds you need to tackle out there.
Yeah,
that's right. That's right.
Well, and IT is so thankless. I always try and remember that when I'm talking to my partners as well. Most of anybody at an MSP, you don't get thanked all that often, even though you're the hero, right? You save them and you save this, and you kind of thank yourself. I think when you're doing yard work, you look at it and you're like, wow, that looks really good. But at an MSP, you're moving on to the next ticket, right? You don't get a chance to sit back.
Yep.
So true.
Well, Will, thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate it. This was a good one. Will, before we go, what is the PartNERD thing?
Great. Yeah. So we wanted to come up with a exciting, partner program. How can we offer, more and more benefits to our partners? And what's an interesting name? So we came up with PartNERD. Get it? It's kind of funny. And but basically, depending on your partnership level with us, it allows you to kind of move up the chain in terms of benefits that we provide. And in keeping with giving back to MSPs, it has nothing to do with how much money you spend with us. It has to do with how many customers you have under management. So if you focus on 3 to 5 user deployments, you could be the same partnership status as, my partner that only does customers that are a minimum of 500 users. But I'll give you an example. When you get to gold and platinum, we are doing a user education event in person. Our last one was virtual. And this year, it's going to be in February. We're going to do it in Cancun at an all-inclusive resort. When you get to the gold level, we are paying all expense paid for one employee to come. When you get to platinum, we are paying for 2 people, all expense paid trip down there. So some really kind of fun things for our partners and trying to give back, amongst other things.
All right, very cool. All right, for anyone who's looking to get in touch with Will, we will be including his LinkedIn profile with the podcast. And also this episode will be up on mspbusinessschool.com and anywhere you get your podcast. Will, any closing thoughts before we break away today?
No, I just want to thank you guys for including me. I had a lot of fun, great questions, and just anybody listening, feel free to reach out to any of us at Nerdio. We have a ton of passion about Azure, even if you just want to have a quick call to ask some questions and just learn.
Sure. All right. Okay. As always, thanks a lot, everybody.
Cool.
Great call.
Thanks, Will. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Guys. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.